Baltimore Orioles season review and offseason preview. What does this team need to do to get back on track in 2026? Now, 2025 was a very disappointing season for this team that resulted in their manager, Brandon Hyde, being fired. So, the first thing you got to look at to get right in 2026 is to hire the right manager. Rumors are they are interested in Albert Pujols. We'll see if that one actually happens. We actually don't know what Albert Pujols would be like as a manager. We obviously know he's a very intelligent baseball mind based on just his work ethic, the way he grinded his mechanics into perfection. I think he would definitely be an asset, and you know his motivation and his drive would teach him to be a very effective coach. But just overall for this team, getting the coach right and the manager position right will be the first step. Secondly, they need to spend. They need to lock up their young players, and they need to do that regardless of whatever the cost is. They also need to go out and buy some pitching. So a lot of money needs to be leaving the pockets of this ownership team. They paid and locked up Samuel Basallo, but the question is, does that mean Adley's not staying? That was kind of a confusing move. I really want to see commitment from this ownership, though. I want to see them not be willing to part ways with these young, talented players and keep this core of talented players, as well as spending on top and bringing other players in to help out, like I said, especially on the pitching end. That said, as much as I believe the pitching staff needs help, the offense was equally bad in 2025. So why was that? Do they need to evaluate the players they have on that end as well? Well, I'd say this is a bunch of very young players, first off, and they're just figuring out how to sustain their success. And they have to adjust to pitchers as pitchers adjust to them and find holes in their swings. That is really what kills a lot of young hitters, especially around this point in their careers. I still believe that the talent is there for these guys, and there is so much of it when it comes to talent, and it's still coming up from the minor leagues. But you need these young guys to pick it up and figure it out and how to get going and to sustain that success at the MLB level. And get this team back to what we believe this offense should be based on the names that are there. Adley, Mayo, Holiday, Cowser, Westberg, Kierstad, Basallo, all those guys really need to be hitting, but there's so much talent in that group of guys. There's no excuses. They have the ability, but I think they need to find the right hitting coach that can teach them how to sustain their success, how to calibrate themselves for each MLB pitcher, and to get through the rough patches when pitchers start to pick holes in their swings. I am pleased with Jeremiah Jackson, but it is just weird that everybody on this offense hit a wall all at once. And when everybody hits the wall, that's when I think you got to look at the coaching, which obviously the coach got fired, and just the approach of how they game plan, because it doesn't seem like they're adequately getting ready for each pitcher. And something they did to prepare their swings across the board really threw them off this year. Now, one guy that I did not mention on the offensive end yet was Gunnar Henderson. And it was kind of a quiet year for Gunnar Henderson, kind of a down year. But yet, he still put up monster numbers, which I think speaks to the insane level of ability that he has, that even though it wasn't as great a year for him too, just like everybody else, he was still one of the best hitters and the best shortstops in the league and wasn't far off of an MVP pace. That just speaks to the level of talent that he has. He is probably the most special player here and one of the most special players in the entire game. And I believe he is clearly an MVP caliber player. But what about the pitching staff, though? We do need to go and talk about this in a little bit more detail. I do expect it to just naturally be a little better next year. Getting Grayson Rodriguez back alone helps you out, gives you somewhat of a boost. The rest of the rotation, hopefully Trevor Rogers can recapture his success that he had this year. But, I mean, aside from that, you're going to need to bring in a good bit of help. And the other guys haven't really convinced me of a whole lot. But when I say that they need to go out and bring in some help, I'm not talking about Charlie Morton or Kyle Gibson. You need legitimate pitchers. You could also trade some of your offensive talent for some pitchers as well. It's a good option. But let me know down in the comments what you think they need to do to improve in 2026 and not have such a disappointing year. Again, can they get it back on track? What does the young talent have to do? And what do you want to see with this pitching staff? Also, is Albert Pujols a serious contender for this manager position? How do you think that would be? Let me know down in the comments.